Hi, welcome to this week's calming practice. It's called Interwoven, and that is a word from a passage by Shitou Xiqian that I will share with you during final relaxation. The theme for this practice is spiralic movements, so a fair amount of twists, and focus within the focus is to access the deeper rotational muscles in both hips and shoulders. And so I hope you have fun. For today, please have a strap and a block at the ready. Also some wall space. We'll be doing one pose, Baddha Konasana, where the wall may help. So not absolutely necessary, but definitely helpful. And also, one of the things we'll do on the block, if you have a bolster around, have it at the ready. It may be more comfortable to place your hips on a bolster than a block. But it's not necessary, and I'll be demonstrating with a block. Okay, great. So please, let's get started. So you're going to start lying on your back with your hands underneath your head and your feet flat on the floor. And start taking some deeper inhales and exhales, breathing into navel. And check in. So you ask yourself, how are you? How are you doing? Notice the energetics in your system. Body parts you're aware of as feeling one way or another. And then as you inhale next, you're going to arch your back so there's more space in belly to breathe. That's your in-breath. And then as you exhale, you can press your low back into the floor, draw your navel down and in. And go back and forth like this, noticing the wave-like movement of the spine as you breathe in and out into abdomen. And this is vinyasa, so the breath is leading the movement. And the movement is extension on your inhale, spinal extension, you breathe into belly, and then some lumbar flexion as you exhale. And as you're doing this work with your low back, that extension and flexion of your lumbar spine, we can mirror that in our neck. So as you inhale, in addition to arching your back, tailbone down, you can look behind you. So that's an extension in your neck. And then as you press your low back down, you can even pick your head up for some flexion in your upper spine and neck. And you can synchronize those two movements. Inhale, arch back, look behind you. Exhale, press your low back, lift your head. Go back and forth like that a few more times here. Getting the rhythm of the breath in the movement. And then from here we can also synchronize movement in shoulders and hips. So it's the double butterfly. So it's like opening and closing two pairs of butterfly wings. As you inhale, you're taking your elbows and knees out to the sides and down. Press them toward the floor or into the floor. And then as you round your spine, exhale, also pin your knees together and pin your elbows together as best you can. So go back and forth like this. And in addition to all the breath work you're doing and the spine work you're doing, you're also adding some movement, some rotational movement in the hip, as well as some movement around shoulder joint, and maybe even shoulder blades. So go back and forth like this another few times. Okay, very nice. So at the bottom of your next exhale, you can complete that head on the ground, spine natural neutral. And now we're going to take our arms out to either side in a wingspan. So our arms are out. And as you inhale, you're going to do the same thing you're doing with your low back. So you can arch your back, breathe into belly, same thing you were doing in the last practice. Exhale, draw your navel in and press your low back into the floor. And we're going to add a spiral movement in our arms. So as you inhale, in addition to your spine work, you're going to rotate your palms so that they face behind you and toward the floor. So this is external rotation of arms. And then as you exhale, you're going to palm the floor the easy way, roll your arms forward, and then some of you may be able to lift your pinky fingers off the floor even. And you're going to go back and forth like this. Inhale is external rotation of arms. Exhale is internal rotation of arms. And this is both, this is shoulder joint rotation. This is also movement of the shoulder blades up and down your back body. So go back and forth like this a few times. You might notice if one shoulder feels a little bit tighter than the other one. Notice what you can notice. Very good. So one last round of inhale and exhale. All right, and then come back to a neutral position, which that's neutral in the spine, and I'll also call this center position with your arms out to the sides, palms facing up. So we'll call that neutral or center. And from here, so a first big spinal twist of the day, you're going to step your left thigh on top of your right thigh, cross your legs narrowly, and as you inhale, you're going to turn your head to the right, and you're going to externally rotate your arm. That's your in-breath. And then exhale, come back to center. And now you're going to turn your head to the right and internally rotate your right arm. And then you come back to center. So this is a 2-breath sequence. Inhale. One inhale is external rotation. Shoulder draws away from ear. Exhale, you return to a center position. And then inhale, you rotate your arm internally. Exhale back to center. Now the twist comes in as you turn your head to the right, drop your knees to the left. That's your in-breath. And then as you exhale, you can come back to center. And so it's the same twist. We are just alternating our arm between internal and external rotation. So every other breath is external. Every other breath in between those is internal. So it's external, internal. You go back and forth like this in your arm a few more times. And you might notice that whether you internally or externally rotate your arm, that might have different effects in your back. You may feel the differences, perhaps even in the low back, depending on which way you turn your arms. And that's sort of one of the meanings of interwoven. So we can see how a rotation of our arm influences our low back. Okay, great. And you come back to center, place both feet flat on the floor. Take a deep inhale and exhale for nothing here. I'm going to turn around for demonstration purposes, but you don't have to. Okay, and then you can leave your right arm out to the side. Left arm is out to the left, of course. And we're going to take right thigh now on top of left thigh. Keep the legs there as we get the rotation sequence in our left arm. As you inhale, turn your head to the left. First, you rotate your arm externally, so your palm rotates back and down. As you exhale, come into a neutral spot with palm up. And you turn your head to the left, arm internally rotates. That's your inhale. As you exhale, you return to center. And go back and forth like this a few times. And of course, side two, the range might feel a little bit different from side to side. Now to add the spiral in your spine, as you turn your head to the left, you're going to drop your knees to the right. Okay, so you're rotating your arm one way. You exhale, come back to center position, and then you rotate your arm the other way. And of course, that's going to feel different in shoulders. but it might also feel different in and along your back body. So, might be big differences, might be small, the differences might not be terribly obvious or immediately obvious. But you're going in this, you're continuing in this vinyasa, noticing what you can notice as we sort of come to an understanding with this weaving of the body, the fascial continuities. A couple more times in each rotation. Okay, very good. And then from there you release, feet flat on the floor, pause there, take a deep inhale and exhale. All right, very nice. And then from here, please take your right ankle on top of your left thigh. We're gonna draw the whole thing in. So your arms can reach through and hold either your left hamstring or your left shin. And as you draw your left knee in, if it's available, you can use your right elbow to guide your right thigh forward. And what that does essentially is take your right hip in a bit more of external rotation. External rotation is where your knees are pointed at, where a knee is pointed out to the side, which means your toes are pointed out. So, but we can look at the knee. So your right knee goes out to the side as far as it feels comfortable for your hip. And then draw the whole thing in for a stretch along the outside of your right hip through low back. A couple more breaths here into low back. Okay, great. And then from there, you release, foot on the floor, switch sides. And with left ankle on top of right thigh, you hug the whole thing in. Either hold your right hamstring, or you can hold your right shin. And because your left arm is between your legs, you can use your left elbow as you draw your right knee in. Press your left elbow into your left inner thigh, if that's available and comfortable. And that will give you more of an external rotation in your left hip. And breathe a few times into low back. This is starting to wake up muscles, the deep muscles around your hips, through sacrum and low back. And a breath or two here. Okay, great. And then from there you can release and both feet flat on the floor. Take an inhale and big exhale. All right, and then from here, please take your strap, and we're going to take the strap around our right foot in a very specific way. This is not the way we would normally take the strap around the foot. I have a loop. You don't quite need one, but it might feel comfortable to use a loop. Typically, we will take the strap around the toes. For this particular practice, you don't take the strap around the toes. Instead, you go to the inside of the leg and take the strap solely around your heel. Okay, so you're gonna press your heel up, and so we're taking the strap from behind and taking the strap just around your heel, and then we're gonna extend the leg. What this allows you to do is to convince your leg to externally rotate as much as it's going to. So hold the strap in your left hand. Okay, right hand goes onto your thigh, and we're going to extend your top leg up, extend your bottom leg forward. And from here, you're going to simultaneously draw on the strap with your left hand, and the right hand, you're going to try to roll the thigh from inner to outer for some external rotation. So external rotation is your knee is pointing out to the side somewhere. It doesn't have to be straight out. For most people, it's some kind of diagonal, which means your toes are going to point in that direction as well. Okay? So you're externally rotating your leg. Press your heel up, keep your quad engaged, heels engaged, and then from here, you bring the leg up as high as you can. Now, because we've already wrung out a lot of hip muscles, most of you will not be able to take this up as far because there's much more going on in the hip than when the hip is neutral. But so here's like another example of the weaving. Now that we've added a twist into the hip, you can notice the effect all the way down the leg. And so for some of you, this will be a lot more outer hamstring and IT band. So several breaths here. Keep on externally rotating the leg. So the arms are doing a fair amount of work, so your leg doesn't have to. 2 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and deep breath in. Okay, great. From there, you release the leg. Let it drop down for a moment. Notice any new sensations around hips, down the back of your leg. Very nice. And then from here, again, the strap goes not around the toes. We typically will take it over toes somehow. Instead, we're going to take it from behind. The strap loops just around your heel. That's going to partially convince the leg to externally rotate. The other part of the adjustment, the self-adjustment, is left hand to thigh. Okay? And top leg, you press the heel up. Right heel, you press it forward. From here, you're going to roll thigh from inner to outer, and now your left knee is pointing to the left, which means your left toes are pointing to the left. Okay? And from here, you keep your legs straight, drive your heel up, and because we've already rotated some deep hip muscles, those muscles are already stretched out in part just through the fact that we're twisting. So when you take the leg up, many of you will feel a lot more resistance around the hips and perhaps around your thighs because the thigh muscles are a bit rotated here as well. Of course, when you twist something, you shorten it. And what that means in muscles is you will feel a stretch earlier in a range if the muscle is twisted. So there's another few breaths here. All right, very good. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. And one last time, breath in. Okay, great. And then from there, you release. Allow your left leg to drop down into the floor. Notice new sensations around hips. You can put your strap by your side. All right, and then so I'm going to demonstrate this one with a block. If you have a bolster, this one might be nice to lie on top of a bolster. The bolster would go widthwise. The block is going to go widthwise. The block is under hips, specifically under sacrum. And so this would start out in a bridge. We're also going to end here in a bridge at the end of the practice today. For this twist, you're going to shift your hips to the right. And I almost have to shift almost off the block. So when I take my knees to the left, now my thighs are up on top of the block. And of course, the bolster would be wide. If you're using the bolster, that's fine. Ultimately, if the block doesn't work for you, you can do this on the floor. In fact, that's the next variation we're going to do. But from here, you can take your left hand onto knees, and that helps anchor your legs. And then take your right arm beyond your head, and you reach back. Okay. Now, as you reach your right fingers back, it's like you're trying to send your right hip forward for more length through your low back. And that's where you can breathe into. So several breaths here. Breathe in and out of your top hip and right lumbar spine. A few breaths here. All right, take a deep breath in. Okay, and you come back out from there. You can pause in the moment. in the middle of the mat, in the middle of the block. And let's try that on the other side. So you're going to shift your hips over to the left, and it may even almost feel like you're off the block, but then by the time you twist your knees over to the right, you'll be on the block again. So now knees are to the right. You're going to reach your left arm back beyond your head. So you slide your left fingers back. And as you're sliding your left fingers back, it's like you're trying to slide your left hip forward. So now there's length, there's sort of this twisting length down your left side. And breathe into your left side a lot. So you're breathing the top hip. Like a breath is sort of traveling like a taproot from your left lung all the way down into your left hip. Okay, very good. And then you can come back to middle, you can slide the block out of the way, hips land in the center. All right, very good. Okay, and then from here you're going to interlace your fingers, and now you're going to press both arms back. So now we're trying to lengthen the fascial connections of the shoulders as far away from your hips as possible. So palms press back as far as you can. Your shoulders are going to remain on the ground. So shoulder blades, I should say, remain on the ground. And as you inhale, drop your knees to one side. Okay, the opposite shoulder is going to want to lift. Keep it anchored. That's your inhale. And then exhale, come back to center. And then take your knees the other direction. And then as you exhale, you come to center. You go back and forth like this several times per side. And with your arms pressing back as far, the arms are rather active here. And because they're so active and lengthening away from your rib basket, the upper torso is already receiving a stretch. And so this twist might feel like there's a little bit more of a stretch going on. Go back and forth like this another few times. I also inhale as I twist in this one so I can feel more of a stretch by virtue of taking a deep breath. Okay, very good. And we started on one side, so you can dip your knees to the other side. Exhale, you come back to center. Finally release your hands. Notice new sensations around torso, around shoulders, as we held the bound hands above our head for a while. Okay, very nice. And then from here, let's come up to seated. And I will be mirroring you for a while. So right shin in front of left shin, you're going to slide your sitting bones back and you're going to reach your arms forward. Okay, and we're going to pause here, soften here for about 30 seconds. You can move your head around as much as you'd like, but try as best you can to relax your hips. If it's available, relax your hips as much as you can. Low back softens, and it's like you're hanging off the pose for a few breaths. All right. Great. And then inhale, come up. And from here, we're going to twist, roll your navel to the right. So you twist to the right, and then fold to the right. If it's available, your elbow or your forearm can press into the thigh to help twist, and then you fold to the right as far as you can. From here, press your right sitting bone into the floor. Press your left sitting bone into the floor. And breathe into your left low back a few times. Again, you can move your head around as much as you'd like. Okay, great. And then our heart's gonna beat to the right. Left hand on the thigh, you're gonna come up right, lengthen out through navel, and then from here, twist to the right as far as you can. Some of you may be able to take now your back arm, your left arm, reach behind you, and you slide it behind you. And if you are able, you may be able to take your right hand on your left thigh. Deep breath in as you lengthen, exhale as you twist. And there's several breaths here. And even if you can't hold your left thigh with this hand that you've wrapped around, you can just reach in that direction. So it's an internal rotation in your shoulder joint. Keep on lifting lungs. And one last time here, take a deep breath in. Okay, great. And from there you come out of that, you release a couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction, shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. All right, great. And then switch legs. So left thigh in front of right thigh. Slide your sitting bones back as far as you can. And then from here, you reach forward. Okay. And with your legs woven the other way, you might feel any small differences or big differences in hips, low back. Relax your legs as best you can for the next few breaths. Legs relaxed as best you can, low back relaxed. You can move your head around as much or as little as you'd like. But keep on relaxing legs, hips, and low back. Okay. Very good. And then from there, you come up, you lengthen. We're going to roll navel to the left. And then with your heart pointing to the left somewhere, you can take your forearm to thigh or elbow to thigh if that's available. And as you fold to your left, breathe into your right low back and ground your right sitting bone into the floor. So there's several breaths here into your right side. Very good. So one more breath into your right low back. And then from here, you're going to lengthen your spine, but try to maintain the twist. So hands over on right thigh, your back hand, your left hand, reach around you. And you're going to reach as far forward as you can. Your hand can be in the middle of the air, if that's what your shoulder allows. If it's available, you can also take your hand onto your thigh. And it's like you're trying to hold your thigh. And that helps your back shoulder, your left shoulder, internally rotate. So in addition to a twist, because of course this is a twist, you can use your arms to facilitate the twist. Breathe into the pose. But also we are starting to challenge shoulders a little bit more as well. So there's 2, 3, 4 more breaths here. Okay, great. And then you come out of that. Take a couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction. Shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. Okay, great. And then we're gonna fold. If you're facing me, you're gonna lie on your right side. I'm still mirroring you, so I'll be on my left, but you can be on your right. And now, so one arm's on the floor. We're going to. This is an external rotation in a sense. We're gonna, with the palm up, you're gonna take it, hold your head. And then from here, you take your heart toward your arm. And so what this may look like, I'm looking for a stretch on your bottom shoulder, your right shoulder. What this may look like is just leaning into it a little bit. And if you have sensitive shoulders, you can always use your free hand your top hand to press down and make it less intense for your bottom shoulder. If you like, you can navigate through more intense version of this by taking your heart closer and closer to your upper arm. So I'm gonna move my arm out of the way so you can see what's going on. But from here, if you don't need your arm, you can also just lie face down, belly down, hip down. So you breathe into your right shoulder another few times here. And this is sort of a lotus arm. This is external rotation of your arm. Okay, use your free arm to press out of that. So you release, you can lie on the back for a moment. All right, so we got some deep shoulder muscles work there. From here, this is internal rotation. This is a Virasana in the arms, hero. You're going to start by taking your fingers toward the floor. And at some point, the shoulder blade starts lifting. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that might be that just might indicate you're near the end of your range. Okay? So option number 1 is to just work on this rotation here. Option number 2, it might not be available, but if it is, you would slide, and this is with my palm down, you slide it underneath your ribs. And you're going to pause here in some internal rotation. Option number 3 is you roll toward your elbow as very mindfully and where you can go. So I'm able to go about probably like 30, 35 degrees or so. I don't think there's many people on earth that could take their heart to their upper arm now. But notice that it's just because of the difference in rotation, now all of a sudden a whole bunch of new things there's new positions of bones. There's also new stretches of muscle. So take this one gingerly, another 2 breaths. Of course, move your head around as much as you need to. Okay. Great, and then on your next exhale, come back to the floor. All right, and so notice how your right shoulder feels. Take a breath here. Big exhale. Okay, and let's try that on the other side. So this will be the last time I'm mirroring you. Your left shoulder's on the ground, my right shoulder. You're going to reach it forward, and then as an external rotation, as a lotus arm, you're going to take your palm to the side of your face, or your temple, your head. And you can mitigate any intensity by pressing your free hand into the floor, right? Because that's the same technique of getting out of this pose, right? Is to add some weight, press down with your top hand in order to make your left shoulder less intense. To make it more intense, you would roll your heart toward your upper arm, roll your body down like it's facing down, and pause here several breaths, breathing into your left shoulder. Of course, different shoulders, different karma, different life history, so honor whatever's going on in this shoulder, back off if you need to. All right, great. And then use your free arm to extricate yourself from that pose. Lie on the back for a moment. Yeah, and feel some new sensations around shoulders. Very good. And then for the Virasana arms, option number 1 is in a sort of like a goal pose position with hand. Option number 1 is to just work on taking fingers or hand toward floor. And for many of us, to get the hand toward the floor, the shoulder blade may need to kind of lift up a little bit. That's fine. Just know that that's probably closer to the end of your rotational limit in your shoulder joint. And that's going to make a big difference when we try to fold over the arm. So part 2 of this, if you are able to, it feels like it makes sense to do it, you take your fingers underneath ribs somewhere. It doesn't have to be tucked in far. And then part 3 is you start rolling your heart in the same direction you did in external rotation. You'll stop a lot earlier, I think. Pretty sure. Because this rotation's a bit odd. And take this gingerly, mindfully, especially if you've never done this before. Think in terms of like doing this at like a 20% effort, 20% intensity, 30% intensity, until you become more familiar with your shoulder. But yeah, if it feels like a good release, just kind of stay where you are. If you're not getting anything, take your heart a little further over. But these are deep shoulder connections. Try to breathe into your left shoulder another few times here. Okay, great. And then from there, you release out of that. And hands next to hips, arms next to torso. Notice the after effects in your left shoulder. All right. Very good. And then from here, let's come up to seated. Okay, I'm no longer mirroring. No longer mirroring. And we're going to take Virasana C, twist to the right. So with legs straight, you're going to keep your left leg straight. And then from here, bend your knee and take your right foot to the floor. So right foot's on the ground. Inhale, you're going to arch your back. Exhale, twist to the right. You're going to wrap your front arm around knee, draw that in. And then exhale, you rotate your belly as far past your thigh as you can. Back hand presses down. Shoulder blades draw away from your ears as you lift your lungs. That's your inhale. And then exhale, see if there's any more twists. And breathe into lower abdomen a few times here. So my hope is that you can feel there's a lot more presence in your shoulder joints and around the shoulder blade. So engage, squeeze, stabilize your arms. Use your arms to facilitate the twist. And one more breath. Take a big inhale, big exhale. Okay, and then you rotate. Extend your leg forward. Pause there. And I'll change orientations for demonstration purposes. You don't have to. All you have to do is take your left foot on the ground, left knee bent. And as you inhale, you lengthen up through your spine. Arch your back a bit. Exhale, twist to the left. Front arm comes around knee. Back hand behind you. And then every exhale, you can facilitate the twist. Navel slides as far past thigh as you can. And breathe into abdomen is like you're trying to breathe into your left thigh. So it's a closed twist. So deep abdominal breath. And you can use your arms to facilitate the twist. So the kind of interwoven nature of the body. It's like if you use your arms, you receive more benefit in spine and in abdomen. There's a couple more breaths here. All right, very good. And then you come back to center, release, extend both legs forward. Deep breath in, big exhale. Okay, right leg stays straight. From here, left foot on the floor, and now we're going to reach forward. So the arm's going to come to the inside of the leg. You're going to hold your shin with your hand or hold your foot with your left hand. Okay? Right hand can be there for balance. If you feel like you're not going to fall over, you can also take your right hand to the shin or to the foot. Squeeze your knee in, round your spine, and breathe into your low back. Okay, so there's several breaths here. And so this is a big hamstring stretch down your right leg. This is also a good low back, sacrum, hip practice. So you breathe into low back in Virasana A another few times. Okay, and then from here, whether your right hand is on the floor or onto the foot or onto the leg, you're now going to take your left hand, you're going to internally rotate your arm and then try to reach back. So now your left fingers are reaching back, and as you reach your arm back, you can engage your shoulder to try to send your heart a little further forward. For those of you who know this, who know the bind, you can also take your hand around and clasp your hands behind you. That might not be available for everybody, but whether you can clasp or not, you can still use your left arm and press into your thigh to careen your heart forward. And 2 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and 1 last time. Okay, great. And you come back up from there. Both legs extend. Couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction. Couple shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. And let's try that on the other side. Left leg stays where it is, right foot on the floor. And you're going to reach your right arm to the inside of your leg and hold your shin. Hold your foot as an option. Okay, anywhere down the leg is fine. And if you feel like you're going to fall over, just keep your left hand where it is. If it's available, left hand next to the right on your knee or on your shin or on the foot. Okay, in this variation of Virasana A, you're going to breathe into low back. And this is a fairly you're getting the back of the left leg because your left leg is neutral, by which I mean the knee is pointing upward and the toes are pointing upward. There's no rotation in your hip. There might be a lot of hamstring stretch, calf stretch. All right, and then from here, if this option is available, you take your right arm out and you connect your upper arm with your shin. And then from here, this is internal rotation where you take your arm and reach behind you. And now with this rotation, as you reach your fingers back, you can send your heart further forward. Okay? If you can make the connection behind you, you can bind. And the bind's really to help take the heart forward. So it's a lot of collecting here. You breathe into low back. Of course, if you can't do the bind, you can still do that work in your right arm. So you take your heart forward and breathe back. Another 2 or 3 breaths. Okay, great. And then from there, you come back up, extend both legs forward. All right, a couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction, other direction. All right. And then from here, left foot on the floor. This time for a modification of Virasana B, you're going to take your right foot underneath your left leg. So now we've rotated our right leg. From here, when you reach down, of course, the knee's not, or there's no more leg there. So you're going to either keep your hand on your knee or slide your left hand as far forward as you can. Okay? If it's available, you can reach both arms forward. But otherwise, you can use your right arm almost like a kickstand. Okay? And those who know the lotus option, do it, but I'm not going to demonstrate it. Virasana B could be here as well. But I'll just demonstrate this version. So as you reach forward, you can now take your left arm out to the left, rotate it back, and you can use your left arm to guide your heart forward. If it's available, you can reach behind you and bind, so both arms are internally rotated. And that sends your heart forward and down. You can breathe into your low back. So this is big internal rotation of your arms, and it's an external rotation of your right hip. So 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. And 1 last time, take a deep breath in. Okay, great. And you come back up, release, legs extend. A couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction and the other direction. And from here, right foot on the floor, please. You're now going to send left foot under your leg. Of course, if you can do the lotus easily, if you know what I'm talking about, Go ahead and do it. From here, you're going to reach your right arm to the inside of your leg, and you can stay here. This could be as much of a stretch for the outer sheathing and your hips. If it's available, you're going to start sliding your right hand forward, down the front toward the front of your mat, and you can use your left hand as a kickstand, or you can reach your left arm forward as well. And as you're reaching forward, you're breathing into your low back. Okay, and then the option for the internal rotation is in the right arm. From here, you would internally rotate, so you would reach your fingers back, and as you reach your arm back, the lungs kind of carousel forward, and you interlace your fingers behind you as an option, if that's a potential. And even if you can't interlace, you can keep your right arm you can keep your left arm out left. Okay? So if you're able to bind, that's fine. Both arms are internally rotated. Left hip is externally rotated. It changes the nature of what's happening in your spine. Breathe into your low back another few times here. Okay, very good. And then inhale, you come back up and extend your legs forward. Good. A couple shoulder blade rolls in one direction. A couple shoulder blade rolls in the other direction. And I'm going to turn around for demonstration purposes. And we're going to take Ardha Matsyendrasana to the left. So once again, place the left sole of left foot on the floor. And you're going to take your right foot underneath. Okay. And then from here, you're going to arch your back, take a deep breath in. Exhale, you're going to twist. Okay. Now, for those for whom this is a great twist and your arms are doing some good work, that is fantastic. You can stay here. For those with more flexible arms, and we've warmed up the internal rotation. This is sort of the apex pose for the arms. If it's available, you would slide your front arm, get it past your thigh, and then you're going to reach underneath and try to connect. Okay, now I can't do that unless I'm sitting up on my foot. Okay, but you can reach down, either hold your foot, hold the opposite thigh, and your arm reaches back as well. Okay, so it's a lot of internal rotation of your shoulders. It definitely changes how the twist feels in the upper torso, no doubt. And there's a few more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and twice more. Breath in, big exhale, and one last time, breathe in. Okay, great, and then you come out of that, release. Okay, so feel the wringing out, feel the release of some pretty deep hip muscles, spinal muscles, shoulder blades, hopefully shoulder joints feel like they're in a good place. And let's try that on the other side. And once again, I'm changing directions, you don't have to. And please take your right foot on the floor and thread your left foot underneath right. You're going to arch your back, and you take a deep breath in, you lengthen, and then exhale, we're going to twist. So you're twisting past your right thigh. Right hand's behind you, left arm's helping the thigh draw in. So you can inhale, exhale here. Use your arms as a means to affect the twist. And if it's available, you would then take your elbow to the opposite side of your thigh and internally rotate your arm. Either hold your foot or hold the opposite thigh. Some of you may be able to bind with your back arm around. Okay, I mean, I'm not able to sitting on the ground. But even if I reach my right arm and I'm not binding with my fingers, I can still Feel the difference in the twist in upper torso, the ribs, muscles around the spine, and breathe into that. Breathe into those differences. Breathe into the stretch. Another couple times here. Okay, and then you come out of that, both legs forward. All right. Yeah, so notice new sensations around shoulders, upper spine. All right, very nice. And then from here, left leg stays straight, right foot comes into inner thigh. This is Janu Shirshasana A. You're gonna lengthen up through navel, roll belly to the left, and fold down your left leg. And breathe here a few times. If the knee bent, if that doesn't work for you, the foot can be anywhere along the inside of your left leg. And as you're folding to the left, keep your right sitting bone grounded, and we'll breathe here into low back a few times. Okay, great. And then come back up into Dandasana. You extend both legs forward. Notice how it feels in thighs, hips. Okay, great. And let's try that on the other side. So left foot, come somewhere down the leg, maybe into thigh. You're gonna lengthen, twist a little bit to the right, belly, skin of navel to the right, and you fold down your right leg. And as you're folding down your right, keep your left sitting bone grounded. And breathe into your low back. Yeah, several breaths here. Okay. Great, and then arrive up right, extend your left foot forward, and we're gonna do that again as option number 1. Some of you might be familiar with Janu Shirshasana's B and C. Janu Shirshasana C, it's a bit, with your knee bent, it's a rotation of your shin bone. And that rotation results in your toes pointing closer to the floor and your heel coming up. Okay, now everyone has a different amount of rotation here. I happen to have a fair amount, okay? So I'm able to get my toes virtually pointing down and the heel up. This does not hurt my knee at all, okay? And that's the main thing I want to stress is like, if you're meant to do it, your knee is not going to hurt. If you're not meant to do this, your knee is going to hurt. So, and everyone has a different level of rotation that they can attain. So if you'd like, you can have your toes point down, heel comes up a little bit higher on the thigh. See how that affects your low back through right hip. Okay, if someone has it and your knee feels completely fine with this, you would slide down your left leg, hold your left foot, and again, notice how the rotation in your shin may affect your thigh, hip, and low back. And there's several breaths here. Yeah, and once again, I just stress, please listen to your knee on this one. This is an oddball one. But what's nice is if you can do it, it's great. If you can't do it, also Janu Shirshasana A is fantastic. Okay, great. And then you come back up, you derotate your shin, take your legs forward. Okay, very good. And let's try that on the other side. So anywhere from Janu Shirsha A, toes pointing forward, or the toes can point down a little bit, the heels up a little higher. That's like a spectrum of tibial rotation from joint A to joint C, and you would fold down your right leg. If it feels comfortable going a little further in the rotation, as long as your knee is not barking at all, okay, you would notice how the tibial rotation, the external rotation here, or lateral rotation, you're gonna roll your belly, fold. Notice how that affects the stretch in your left thigh, your left hip, your left low back. And once again, please listen to knee. You should not feel a big sensation in the knee. This does result in a little bit of difference around the knee, but no pain, no pulling on your knee. I'm hoping for the influence to be a little more global, so we can observe that interwoven quality of our connective tissue. There's a couple more breaths. Okay, great. And then from here, you can make your way back up, extend your legs forward. All right, very good. From here, we're going to take a Paschimottanasana, a forward fold, but what I encourage you to do is the same rotation that we did on the back, way back at the beginning of our session. You're going to rotate the skin of the thighs, like inner thighs go from inner to outer, which means your IT bands will like roll underneath you. And so this is like Charlie Chaplin, like sort of how he stands. So the knees are pointing out to the side, which means the toes are pointing out to the sides. And then from there you forward fold. Notice how the rotation of your hips influences the stretch down your legs. This also may influence the stretch in your low back. So hands can be on shins. I do like to hold my inner arch on this one. So if you're able to, you can hold the inner arch, and as you press the inner heels forward, at least I can come a little bit further forward because it helps release the outer legs a little more. And there's another few breaths here. Once again, listen to knees, listen to hips. Make sure all your joints are okay. Okay, great. And you can make your way back up. All right. Nice. So from here, we're going to do 3 versions, I'll say, of Baddha Konasana. I like being against the wall for these, and I'm also going to move the mat a little bit closer to the wall for the comfort level for my feet. So my back is going to be against the wall, and my feet are going to be on my mat for comfort. The first practice is without a block. You just draw your feet closer together, and you pause here. So the wall makes it easy to be upright. All right, and so you draw your heels inward, press your knees downward. And so there's several breaths here. This is one of the apex poses for the external rotation in your hips. And if this feels like enough work for your hips, you can stay here. If it's available, you can take the block in between your feet. You can do it, I would say typically, most people would choose between narrow and medium width as you draw this in. So, I think full width, I don't think you can draw it in far enough to most people at least. But yeah, so I'll demonstrate on medium width, but you can also go narrow width as you draw your block and your feet in. Also press your knees toward the floor. There's a couple more breaths here. Okay, great. And you can slide your feet in the block forward. And then the third variation is Baddha Konasana toward a pose called Mula Bandasana. At this point, I put the block on the floor, right against the wall, so I can sit up on the block. And you may even want the block to be a little bit further forward, depending on, I just want you to be able to sit up on the block comfortably. So sitting bones on the block. Now, so we're further away from our feet, we might have to bend over to bring them in a little bit. The other thing you can do here is what we did in Jana Shirshasana from A to C. You can roll over your pinky toe, and this is why I have the mat underneath, because especially if you have a hardwood floor, that'd be pretty rough for the toes. But I open up my toes, and then from here, I lift my heels a little higher. And this is external rotation by pressing your knees down. And then I lift my inner arches forward, and that's tibial rotation. Okay? Keep on lifting your lungs. And notice how the stretch feels. If it's available, you can take your feet in a little further. If it's available, you can lift your heels a little higher and forward as your knees go down. Once again, listen to both knees, listen to all joints. I'm looking for this woven effect, this like extra spiralic work to really like release the more fascial continuities in our shins and thighs. Just make sure the joints are okay. And another 30 seconds here. Once again, if this doesn't work for you, go back to one of the previous two Baddha Konasana practices with the outside of your feet down, your heels down. All right, another 2 breaths. Okay, great. And then from there you can come out of that. You can take your feet to the floor. Come back onto your mat. And we're taking bridge pose with the block underneath your hips. So we're going to lie on the back. Again, whatever height, we'll be here for just like a minute. So whatever height you would want for 60-second bridge right before final relaxation. And you can either stay here and just breathe in the lower abdomen with your hips in a neutral rotation. If it's available as a counter, you take your feet wider and drop your knees in. So this is the exact opposite rotation as Baddha Konasana. So you're basically wringing out, it's almost like a counter ring. So you're wringing your hips out the other way. If that doesn't work for your knees, again, neutral bridge is fine. Breathe into your lower abdomen a few more times. All right, very good. And from here, if your knees are dropped inward, you neutralize them, take your feet a little closer together. From here, engage your glutes, lift your hips up off the block, and lower your hips to the floor in final relaxation. So you extend your legs forward. You can also slide one shoulder blade down, other shoulder blade down. And settle into this Shavasana. Really the deepest pose of the practice. I know we did a lot of deep work, both conceptually, seeing how one body part position affects the other, also deep literally, the deep hip muscles, the deep shoulder muscles. So allow the depth of the body to relax and soften groundward. All right, yeah, feel the weight of your bones, feel the weight of your musculature. Notice the interconnectedness of your sensations. The whole body may be sending you signals, strong or weak, about your connections. So I will read the small passage from taking part in the gathering. We and everything we perceive are woven and interwoven. And this interweaving continues on and on, while each thing stands in its own place. We and everything we perceive are woven and interwoven. And this interweaving continues on and on, while each thing stands in its own place. So notice your wovenness for the last minute of Shavasana. You can also experience your interwovenness between you and your physical space. Okay. Great. So from here, guide your awareness to your breathing. And start taking some deeper inhales and exhales. So breathe into that wovenness. And notice how the breath impacts sensation in torso. Can you take a breath through your hips, down your legs, as if you're breathing into your feet? Experience that. And breathe into your shoulders, down your arms, and into palms. Experience that. And breathe into your head along the inside skull. Experience this. All right. And from here, draw both knees into chest. Give both knees a good hug. And you can start rocking back and forth or rocking from side to side a little. Feeling momentum in your body one way or the other. Then you can roll over to one side. Pause onto your side. And then with as little effort as possible, make your way up to a comfortable seat. All right. Very good. And as your legs relax down, notice the lightness of your lungs. And you can gently open your eyes. All right, very good. Well, I hope that felt enlightening and helpful for you, help relieve some perhaps deeper tensions in the body. We can always rinse them out on occasion. So thank you so much for practicing with me, and namaste.